Grigory was driving a truck along a snowy highway, making his way through the dense Siberian forest. The road was dangerous, black ice on the asphalt made every movement risky. The cargo was urgent, and every minute counted. But as he turned the steering wheel coming out of a sharp bend, his eyes widened in horror. Right in front of him, in the middle of the road, stood a mother bear with 2 cubs. Grigory slammed on the brakes. The massive truck, painted with bright red and white stripes, skidded, leaving deep tracks in the snowy road. The vehicle stopped just a few meters from the animals. Grigory gripped the steering wheel, expecting the animals to immediately flee into the forest, but the mother bear didn't move. She stood with her legs apart as if protecting something. The cubs pressed against her side, but their gaze wasn't fixed on the truck, it was directed at something lying on the snow. The man squinted into the white canvas, covered in paw prints and tire marks, and then he saw it. A small child curled up between the bear's paws. He wore only a light blue winter jacket, far too thin for such severe frost. Grigory froze. He couldn't make sense of what he was seeing. A child, out here, in the wilderness, on a freezing night? But what amazed him even more was how gently the bear was covering the child with her body. She didn't growl, didn't attack, didn't try to chase him away. Her dark eyes looked at him, not with malice, but with a kind of silent warning. Something shifted inside Grigory. He recalled old stories from elders about bears sometimes adopting abandoned animals into their own families, but a child? That was unthinkable. Grigory slowly reached for the door, but a sudden sound made him freeze. From a distance came the low hum of an engine, other people. He looked back at the bear, and her posture grew tense. Who had left this child in the winter forest? Why were the bears protecting him? And what if the people approaching weren't saviors, but the ones from whom the child needed protection? Grigory clenched his jaw. He had to act, but carefully. One wrong move could cost him his life, the child's, and maybe even that of this strange, mysterious, but clearly caring bear family. Grigory sat behind the wheel, unable to move. His eyes darted between the bear, the child, and the cubs. Thoughts swirled in his mind. Who was this child, and how did he end up in the middle of a frozen forest? Behind the truck came a muffled hum. Grigory grew alert and looked into the rearview mirror. Between the trees, headlights appeared. Someone was approaching. His heart pounded wildly. The mother bear heard the noise too, her ears twitched, muscles tensed. She slowly turned her head toward the sound, then looked back at Grigory. Her gaze was no longer just a warning, it had become determined, almost pleading. Damn, Grigory breathed, not knowing what to do. Finally, he gathered his courage and, moving as carefully as possible, opened the truck door. The cold air stung his skin. He stepped onto the snow. The bear didn't move, but now Grigory could see how the child was trembling. He was too pale, his lips had turned blue. In such cold, he wouldn't last long. Easy, easy, Grigory raised his hands to show he meant no harm. The bear followed his movements. Her eyes showed no wild rage, only caution mixed with something resembling trust. Grigory slowly crouched, approaching the child. But then, from the distance, came a sharp sound, a gunshot. Grigory instinctively ducked, and the bear roared, rising on her hind legs. The cubs pressed against her sides. Grigory turned his head. 3 dark figures appeared between the trees. A rough voice shouted, and Grigory quickly looked at the bear. She growled, not at him, but at the people. Her posture showed not just aggression but fear for the child. Then Grigory understood, these people were looking for the boy, but not to save him. Damn! Damn! He hesitated for only a second, but every second could cost a life. He reached for the child. Come on, little one. The tiny body was ice cold. The boy was barely breathing. Grigory gently lifted him into his arms. The bear growled again, not at him, but at the approaching men. In that moment, Grigory made a decision. He stood up, holding the child tightly to his chest, and without taking his eyes off the bear, slowly moved back toward the truck. He had to leave, and fast. Grigory had almost reached the truck cabin when he heard shouting and footsteps. The men were quickly approaching, their outlines were now clearly visible in the frosty air. Hey! Stop, one of them yelled. Grigory didn't stop. The boy trembled in his arms, he was too weak, almost weightless, but his faint breath was still warm on Grigory's hand. Another gunshot rang out. Grigory ducked abruptly, shielding the child with his body. The bullet slammed into the truck's side door, leaving a dent. Before he could react, a loud roar sounded. The bear had placed herself between Grigory and the armed men. Her fur bristled, and her teeth gleamed in the headlights. The cubs clung to her but didn't run away. Damn, she'll tear us apart, one of the pursuers cursed. Shoot, another ordered. But before the gun could rise, the bear lunged forward. Grigory didn't wait. He flung the door open, quickly placed the child on the passenger seat, and jumped into the driver's seat. The smell of diesel mixed with the cold air. The engine roared to life. Through the windshield, Grigory saw the bear charge one of the men, forcing him to stumble back. She wasn't attacking for blood, she was protecting. His fingers clutched the steering wheel. Hold on, kid. The truck jerked forward, the tires squealed on the ice. In the rearview mirror, Grigory saw one man fall into the snow while another raised his weapon, but it was already too late. They were too far behind. But Grigory knew one thing, now, they would be hunting him. And the question of who this child was, and why they were looking for him, grew more terrifying by the second. Grigory drove the truck along the winding forest road. His heart pounded in his throat. The tires gripped the ice, the truck skidded slightly, but he didn't slow down. In the rearview mirror, there was no sign of the bear or the pursuers, but he knew that wouldn't last. The child? Grigory glanced at the passenger seat. The boy was shivering, his tiny fists clenched. He was so small, so fragile. Hey, kid. Can you hear me? Grigory tried to speak softly, but his voice still came out hoarse. The child didn't respond, he just stared ahead with large, dark eyes like the night. Grigory felt a strange pang in his chest. Who the hell are you? He muttered, more to himself than to the boy. The forest remained thick, but up ahead the road began to slope down toward a small bridge over a frozen river. Grigory knew this route, he had hauled cargo along it for many years. About 5 kilometers ahead was an old abandoned gas station. If he could reach it, he might be able to hide, rest, and warm the child. But the main question remained, who were the people who had shot at him? Grigory pulled his phone from his jacket pocket. Of course, no signal. Damn wilderness, he muttered and glanced again at the boy. Is someone looking for you? He asked quietly. The child blinked and then, unexpectedly, whispered, they killed my mom. Grigory felt his fingers clench around the steering wheel. Who? His voice was tense. But the child fell silent again, curling up as if even that short confession had drained his last strength. Grigory clenched his teeth. He didn't know what kind of hell was going on here, but one thing was clear, This boy was the key to everything. And by taking him into the truck, he may have just signed his own death sentence. Grigory sped down the snow-covered road, but anxiety churned inside him. The boy's words echoed in his mind. They killed Mom. Who? Why? The child remained silent, his tiny fingers clenched into fists, his gaze frozen, empty. Up ahead, an old gas station came into view, a crumbling building with shattered windows and rusted pumps. Grigory swerved off the highway and slowed down. This would have to do. He killed the engine. Silence filled the cab. "Come on, kid," Grigory said, lifting the boy and feeling his ice-cold body. The station was empty, but in one corner he found a relatively clean spot scattered with cardboard boxes. Grigory sat the boy down, pulled off his jacket, and wrapped him in it. "Can you hear me?" he asked softly, looking into the child's dark eyes. The boy stayed silent. Grigory cursed under his breath. He knew this kid had been through something terrible, but if he didn't start talking, they might both die. The silence was broken by a distant crunch of snow. Someone was walking along the road. Grigory tensed and crept to the window. In the bluish moonlight, shadows moved across the snowy hill. People. They were following the trail. Grigory realized they were almost out of time. His heart pounded violently. "God damn it," he whispered. The boy sat in the corner, still wrapped in his jacket, pale, his lips trembling slightly. Grigory peeked again. The men were armed, one with a rifle, another with a knife, and a third who seemed to be in charge. "We know you're in there," one of them shouted, his voice carrying across the empty road. "Give us the kid and you walk away alive." Grigory's fists clenched. He had never been a hero. Just a long-haul trucker, wrong place, wrong time. But one thing he knew, if they took the boy, no one would ever see him again. Grigory sat beside the boy, trying to sound calm. "Why are they after you?" The boy looked up. His eyes were deep, dark, filled with fear and understanding. "My mom worked for them," he whispered. "For who?" "The bad people. She wanted to expose them, so they." Grigory understood. The woman had learned something she shouldn't have. She tried to hide her son, but failed. Now he was the only one who knew the truth. Outside, snow crunched again. They were getting closer. Grigory clenched his jaw and scanned the room. No weapons, just an old tire iron near the counter. "When I say go," he whispered to the boy, "you hide. No matter what happens, don't come out." The child nodded. The footsteps grew louder. Someone kicked the door. Grigory gripped the tire iron. Fate had dragged him into this story. There was no turning back now. The gas station door burst open with a crash. Cold air swept in, sending snowflakes spinning in the moonlight. Grigory stood firm, gripping the iron. The boy crouched low, hidden behind boxes. 3 men entered. "Well, trucker," said the tall one with sharp features and a rifle. "Wanna play hero?" Grigory stayed silent, counting seconds, searching for his chance. "You don't know what you've stepped into," the man continued. "But it's not your problem. Hand him over and we'll go." Grigory glanced at the boy. The child trembled but didn't cry, just looked at him. In that moment, Grigory knew, if he gave him up, the boy would die, just like his mother. "You know what?" Grigory exhaled. "I don't believe you." The man with the rifle scoffed. "Pity." Grigory swung the tire iron with all his strength. It smashed into the rifleman's arm with a sickening crack. The man screamed, the gun dropped, but the second attacker lunged with a knife. Grigory barely dodged, the blade grazed his shoulder, pain flaring, but he couldn't stop. He struck again, a sharp blow that knocked the second man back. The third was reaching for a pistol when a deafening roar erupted outside. A primal, animal sound. Everyone froze. Then, heavy footsteps. Snow crunching. A blur of motion. Grigory didn't immediately understand until he saw one of the men fall back, screaming. Something massive burst from the tree and slammed into him. A bear. A mother bear. She had come. The men fled in panic. One fired a shot, but it went wide. Grigory didn't wait. He grabbed the boy and ran. Go. They sprinted to the truck. Grigory threw the boy into the cab, slammed the door, jumped behind the wheel, and started the engine. The headlights lit up the carnage behind them. The bear stood among the scattered bodies, her breath heavy, steaming in the cold. She looked at Grigory. And he understood, she knew what she was doing. She had protected the boy. And she knew Grigory would do the same. The truck tore away, leaving the gas station and death behind. They drove for hours. The boy said nothing. Grigory stayed quiet too. By dawn, they reached the nearest town. Grigory took the boy to the police and told them everything he knew. Later, it came out, his mother had been a journalist. She had gathered evidence against people you don't cross. But they found out. They killed her. The boy escaped and found his guardian in the forest. The bear was never seen again. Grigory went back to driving. But every time he passed that winter road, he couldn't help but glance into the woods. Sometimes, he thought he saw dark shapes among the trees. Watching. But he never felt fear again. Only gratitude.